206.
Mic check, mic check.
Salutations.
1 2 1 2.
Yo, what's good, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the 206. Today, we got another reflection episode coming at you, and we are going to be reflecting about the episode where we spoke about couples sleeping in the same bed, and the episode where we had Yasi come on and talk about her studies at Columbia University, and specifically epigenetic inheritance. So, that being said, I don't know which one of you wants to get the ball rolling, but the floor is open.
Yo, Big Tim from the 206. The 206 would like to give their love and condolences to all of those lives lost in the pandemic and to all of those who's enduring all types of limitations imposed by the pandemic. So our love and prayers go out to you. We appreciate you taking your time to listen to us. So yes, we are reflecting on Yasi. Let me just start off by saying that for me, it is inspiring to always hear about young people's being passionate about science or anything really that can make a big, huge impact on society. And to her, she talked about combining her aspirational paths to really making a huge impact on people in society. She wants her work and everything she does to be just as intimate to her as she wants her positive influence to be intimate with the rest of society. And that's absolutely amazing. I mentioned in that episode that I grew up with Carl Sagan, Bill Nye the Science Guy, and Reading Rainbow. And as a kid, I was absolutely empowered just by watching those shows. No matter what time I found myself watching it, whether it was in class or at home, I was inspired. And it impressed me the value of science. So it's just so important for us to be passionate just as much as knowledgeable about what we do in life. And she's very well on that path. I love that. That's probably the biggest takeaway from her from that episode. It just made me smile, and it's very warm and very humbling. I also took away the importance of family. She shared with us a lot of experience around the traveling she did with her parents in meeting their friends and the impact that they have had on her in regards to that. And also, I love the science of epigenetics. It's very interesting. I've never heard of it before. My concept before was that all the information, anything that could make any person is just exclusive to DNA, period. And as I understand it, I know the science explores other factors around DNA that could make a huge impact on who we come out to be as individuals and what's passed down and what affects that. So that was amazing as well. I felt like I was in class again and she was teaching me stuff. So I love it. Love it. So yeah, what'd you think, Jason? How about yourself?
Yeah, thanks. Highlighting similarly. Well, also, yeah, let me give the salutations to the digital community out there listening in any way. Always good to be in the circle here with our mom and Tim. And out here, Southwest, we got some snow. So it's the first day of the snow. And that is kind of like a blessing out here. There's a lot of teachings around the first snow. And I just wanted to share that's happening right now in real time as this recording's happening on our end. So with that being said,
I love hearing about that. I've never seen snow. Do you know that? I've never seen snow.
that's that's awesome because there's going to come a day you're going to see snow, and it's going to. I hope that day comes and you get a chance to see what it's about, man. It's a unique
I'm loving
experience in
it.
life.
Love it.
Yeah, and as you mentioned it, just briefly, it's kind of viewed as a blessing. from the ancestors out here. It's known when the first snow comes, changing of the season and moisture to the planet. This is influenced by ancestors that walked the planet who knew what we needed at what times of the year. So in a way, it's like a prayer and a blessing from them. So then you can imagine learning that, and then when you see it for the first time in many months, what kind of thoughts come to mind? So maybe I can speak to this in relation to the epigenetic thought that we were sharing with Yasi, like what she was getting into with the learning about epigenetics. And my sense is whether it's the traumatic inheritance or it's other kinds of inheritance. I think we explore different themes on inheriting virtues, right? So equally, we can inherit qualities and things that serve us in a way that is preferable to us, and then also we can inherit qualities and experiences that are to be healed, so to speak. So, in any case, when the snow comes, I can't but help to think about my ancestors. And who are those people, man? I have loved ones who passed, and Yasi also spoke about her studies with Alzheimer's disease. And my grandfather is one of those ancestors of mine, if you will, who's passed, and he passed of Alzheimer's disease. That's on my mom's side. So, all that kind of comes to mind just looking at the snow. And what also comes to mind about snow, a teaching out here was this idea of when the child is born, the first snow is very important for the baby. The baby is to be rolled in the snow and experience it, the cold, at a very young age. And it's done like that with the child upon the first snow and for every year of its life, and to a point in which the immunity is boosted, the child is more accustomed to the cold weather. So what it speaks of when I see the snow, I think about that teaching too, and I think about Yasi as a young woman who clearly had guidance, who clearly had individuals who were taking care of her, to the point that as a 21-year-old, this is someone who is expressing herself in such a way with such kind of nuance in her life, so much diversity and interests, and very passionate about all of these myriad of life kind of experiences she's having. And to me, it really speaks back to that training. Who were her guides? Who were the individuals in her life? So clearly we know about family and guardianship. So, that's also a huge thing when I was thinking about the epigenetic inheritance along with family. And, we can really begin a healing process. We can begin generational healing processes as well as individual healing processes by beginning to have a conversation. And it's so wonderful to have someone like Yasi come on with not just the youth and the passion, the energy that comes from being young, also bringing incredible competence in expressing herself, not just about what she's studying, but also about feelings and personal experiences related and inspired by her life. And so all that full circle, the snow is here. I'm thinking about the 206. We're talking about family. So I'll share a few teachings from what I learned out here. Maybe y'all will learn it one day too. But if you never come out here, hopefully you get it this way. So let's keep the sharing alive and the learning alive. And yeah, that's all I'm going to say for now, Armand.
No doubt. Appreciate it. For me, the biggest thing that stuck out in that episode in particular, and just for me knowing her, is just a reminder of how powerful it can be when you meet someone who's so young. And I mean, I know I'm young, so who am I to call her young? I'm 27, and I believe she's 21. She's 22 at the absolute oldest, but I'm pretty sure she's 21. But when someone's so young, has such a sense of purpose and vision and direction in their life, it's really fascinating because you see a lot of people, regardless of what age, really struggle with their purpose in life or what they feel like their purpose in life is, what they want to do, etc. Or you have people who may feel like they know what their purpose is, but for one reason or another, they are unable to really carry out their passion or their dream or what they really feel like they were put on this earth to do. And when you meet someone, regardless of what it is, whether it's, you know, the stereotypical, I want to follow my dreams and become a singer or an athlete or an actor, etc., right? Or if it's someone like her who identified at a pretty early age what she wanted to do and where her passion lied, when they're actually in the process of doing that, it's quite powerful. And I just remember the first time I met her in Ottawa, we were at a conference, and I remember that I was going to a talk. There was a mini talks going on at once, and I had went into her room. I was looking for my friend to see where he was, and when I was looking for him, I remember seeing her, and she was up on the stage. I just assumed, based on what the topic was, that the speaker was going to be an older person. That's just what I assumed. So when I saw her up at the table, like moving equipment around and moving like computer stuff, I just thought that maybe she was someone helping to set up. So I ended up leaving the talk that I was at and coming back to that room later on because the talk that I was at wasn't as interesting as I thought it would be, or they didn't talk about what I thought they were going to talk about. And when I came back, I remember looking at her. I'm like, wait a second. And this was the room was packed. There was at least 150 people in this room, and she was up there, and she had such a presence and such a command for what she was doing. And I was like, wait, is this that same girl I saw when I first came in here? She looks way too young to be talking about, you know, what her topic. She was giving me a topic on artificial intelligence and the role that it'll play in the future. And when she was talking, I also remember looking at her. I'm like, this girl sounds like she comes back from this girl sounds like she comes from a philosophy background. There was something about her pathology and the way she spoke and the way you can see her thoughts were structured that, from my perspective, just screamed philosophy, philosophy, philosophy. And sure enough, when I went up to her after the presentation was over and was talking to her, she talked about how, yeah, she's at Columbia and she's also, whether it was minoring or double majoring in philosophy. And I was like, not surprised whatsoever. But anyways, even from that point on until now, she's always been, I got this sense of like, she has a clear vision and a clear purpose about what she wants to do and why she wants to do it. And that's always, to me, especially in the younger generation. Again, in general, it's always great to see, but especially when it's someone in the younger generation, it's very powerful and fantastic. And it gives, again, I sound, I don't know if I'm paternalistic is the right word, but like, I'm not trying to be like, oh, I'm so much older. So when I look down at the younger people in the world, it's none of that, but it's just like, it gives you hope that the generation that's going to eventually, again, I guess technically she's probably Gen Z and I'm probably a millennial, but it makes you feel like the future is in good hands whenever you see people like her of her age doing what they're doing.
True.
And then,
And also,
Tim, I know,
like,
I mean,
real
I don't
quick on
know.
that same
I'll go ahead,
note,
Jason. Go ahead.
trusting.
Yep.
Yeah, just on that same note, yeah, like a big shout out to anyone who's kind of following their passion and also knowing like it's you know, let's learn together, like keep teaching us, keep, you know, growing, making mistakes too. There's no necessarily how do you say, no one really's got any of it figured out. So people who are really on the forefront of exploration, of learning more about what this is all, what life is awesome. And hopefully, yeah, we do this here in the 206. You know, we explore a little bit of that.
No doubt. Oh, also the other thing that was just funny. She's pretty humble for someone who's I would say as smart as she is. I remember after the episode was done and I told her we're getting ready to upload it to YouTube and Spotify and everything. She's like, all right, but are you sure? Like, are you sure that I sound okay? That I don't sound dumb? And I'm like, you have three people on this podcast who for all intents and purposes, know nothing about epigenetic inheritance, at least from the academic and scientific sides. Maybe on a conceptual level, we can understand what it is on a conceptual level. But like, we have no applied knowledge in the subject. And here you are, who's been studying it for the past 3 years. And again, maybe you're not an expert, but you clearly know what you're talking about especially relative to other people. And it's like you're worrying about how you sound. I'm like, I think in that beginning of that episode, I like stuttered twice trying to say the damn word. So it's like, you're good. No one's gonna be listening to the episode wondering if you know what you're talking about. So that was just pretty funny as well.
That's what's up. So yeah,
Yo, Tim,
go ahead.
I was just gonna say, if that was it for Yasi, I remember that you said you had some additional information about the couple sleeping in the same bed episode that you wanted to share with everybody.
Yes, sir. One last thing surrounding Yasi, echoing Jason here. Anyone out there, especially young peoples who are thinking really heavily about entering into a field, from your host, Big Tim of the 206, just remember that as you're going throughout your journey, exercise a little space for people, for your friends and family, as it relates to your academics. Because for the rest of us who aren't on the similar journey, we may never find ourselves crossing paths with whatever you're studying, period. Unless there's opportunities to be around people like yourself who are open and willing to share a little bit about what you're studying in particularly, but also how that journey is relating to your just own personal trek in life. It's very important. But we appreciate your courage, your passion, and your efforts as you go down your aspirational academic path. So thank you for that.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, and jumping on to should couples sleep in different beds? Bed. So this is, ever since it's been brought up, has been a subject that's been fascinating in the sense that it's nothing I've ever thought about before. And it's kind of impressed on me the realization of how important it is to take some time whenever to challenge our norms and what's considered just common sense and basic knowledge. Because we all get that from somewhere, from the moment of birth. It's impossible for us to come into this world with a set of acceptable, understandable notions and standards and traditions. We get it from something, and we get it from somebody. So it's good in that sense to just question and explore it mentally every once in a while. And this one's been fascinating. One thing I think about when I think about this question is just how much personally I assumed for everyone in regards to their relationships. I assume that most relationships go about a certain way. Most people feel about their partner in this way. And anything else that's different is pretty much wild, extreme, and just simply unique. But as time goes on, I'm understanding that to be untrue, and that our world is just as diverse, as it is similar. So this really spurred me into doing a little research on my own, upon different articles and YouTube videos to just explore that question as it relates to many other people in life. And I found that the diversity is huge. There's a lot of couples out there who sleep in not only just different beds, but different rooms, and they're happily married. And whether it's for reasons of snoring, which is the number one reason I found, which is probably the biggest reason I found that a lot of people will sleep in different spaces, is the snoring.
If my wife snores, she got to get out, bro. Like, I'll literally kick her out of bed.
Yeah. and snoring, what I've learned from a sleep consultant named Alana McGinn, which I believe I've listened to her on a YouTube video. I'll have to refine the link for that. But she tells the host of this show in this YouTube video that with snoring, outside of just it being irritating and annoying, make sure that if it's really bad, to consider having your partner go see the doctor as it relates to sleep apnea.
real quick, I'm gonna say something because it reminds me. I have an ex, right? And this ex sent me a voice note one time on WhatsApp. And because I think we were just talking about snoring for some reason. She was at a hotel with her family, and she was talking about how she couldn't get too much sleep. I was like, why? She's like, because, they're snoring. And she talked about how both her both her sister and her husband snored, right? And I was like, yeah, my grandma snores pretty bad. I know how it can be. Bro, I was not ready for this voice note. And when she sent me this voice note of the snoring, it sounded like Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
And honestly, it sounds like an 18-wheeler trying to rev up his engine after being broke down on the side of the highway, dog. I was like, how is that possible, bro? I'm like, if there's any, I'm sorry, I would file for a divorce if it doesn't, if my wife stuff like that. Again, you can throw any cast any aspersions upon me as you want. I don't care. Like if that happens to my wife, I know we say, oh, sickness through health. It's like, that's something that's not sickness or health. That's like a whole other problem, bro. Like we're gonna have to sign on the dotted line and like split our assets because I don't know if I can rock with that. Anyways, go ahead.
It's amazing because and snoring, and it seems so insignificant, something small. Oh yeah, snoring. Yeah, so what? Maybe I'll get with a partner who snores very loudly, but we'll manage, man. I'm sure we'll get some inhaler or some type of breathing apparatus to help cure that. Maybe it's because he or she doesn't stretch enough, but it's easy to say that when you're not. It's easy to say that when you're not like.
But listen, for all people out there in America who are struggling with snoring and need a remedy, Tim, from a graduate from the, YouTube University, just said that if you just stretch a little bit, all your snoring issues will go away.
I acknowledge what I don't know, and hey, who knows? I've been told to do a lot of stuff that seems completely irrelevant or unconnected to a totally separate issue in my mind. So, just putting that out there.
That's exactly what this whole conversation was about from the start, too.
Right. So, what else I found through another YouTube video early this morning that I looked into, and I will leave the link for that because I did make it a point to get the link. It was a recording of an episode of a broadcast of a news station called Good Morning Britain. It's like similar to America's version of Good Morning America or Morning Joe. Usually lasts from 6 a.m. to like 9 something. And 3 anchors invite 2 women of opposing views as it relates to sleeping in the same bed. One woman who was married for 12 or so years, and another woman who was married for a rough 24. The 24-year woman did sleep in separate rooms, where the 12-year woman was strongly opposed to that. And some of the parallels I found as I was listening to them on that show was that they both have anxiety. And I've understood up to my life at this point that everyone has their own different resolution and methods to deal with a variety, the myriad of disorders or social conditions that we may have to deal with. Now, with the 12-year woman, as far as her anxiety is concerned, the only and biggest way that she deals with it is the few times in her routine that she has to sleep with her husband. If she can't sleep in the same bed with her husband, her anxiety goes off the roof, especially as it correlates to her cycles, and it's just destructive. She can't imagine sleeping in separate rooms, sleeping bed. But the other woman, the 24-year woman, mentioned that with her anxiety hits her hard early in the morning. And no matter what, it doesn't matter whether she sleeps in the same bed as her husband or not, as long as she gets a good night's rest, it's important. By whatever means necessary, she doesn't have to deal with the lowest points of her anxiety. So that was one, anxiety. Another one with the 24-year woman was that she's a writer. Whatever work detail she has to write a lot. So she purposely has another room where she can focus on that and in her writing. And she did mention that when they go on vacations, those are probably the times in her life frequently where her and her husband, without a second thought, always share the same bed. Always. Is
Mhm.
during times of vacation. So I thought that was very enlightening. So we have snoring, we have anxiety, and with anxiety, I can just assume that depending on what issues the partners have and bring to the table and their resolutions in dealing with it may have a huge impact on whether or not they share the same bed. And I also note that our current president and first lady do not share a room. They sleep.
I
They
probably
sleep
know why
in.
that is.
They sleep in
We've all seen the
separate
videos of
spaces.
her, bro. She's been sending out SOS signals for a long time, Doug.
So I'll say with all of that, listeners, that I know it sounds like such a silly thought, a silly question. Should couples sleep in the same bed? But the more you dig and explore the question and you explore different sources, you will be surprised at the sleeping arrangements of many happy and successful couples and marriages and relationships out there. You just never know.
Right
True
on.
that. I guess the
Yeah, I
one
had
thing that, and I don't know. Oh, go ahead, Jason. Go ahead, Doug.
just one thought briefly along those points. Since Tim, man, he really brought it full circle with it and shared those examples. I love that. And also new information for me, because like yourself, I also assumed like not really many people were doing this or talking about it. So pretty high percentage of people actually doing it. And then, yeah, the myriad of reasons that it might be going on at any one time, and then also why it might change at another time. And I just think, yeah, like we're saying, like we were talking about, like exploring life from that perspective, because it's good, because it brings up this idea of snoring. Like today, we were just having that kind of chat, and I was just thinking, well, now maybe even if your partner is in some way snoring, maybe sleeping in separate beds would be a solution. And maybe there's other things to do also, like Tim, like you're sharing.
Like divorce.
Well, true. In fact, that's one of those options, right? And also like what Tim was talking about when he said stretching. To me, what I was thinking was like how stretching the diaphragm if you're a singer to expand, capacity in the torso for longer, holding notes and all that. I'm not much of a singer, but I understand these are practices. Also, other things that I practice though is like the pranayama, which is an Eastern technique of breathing designed for health, and it's known to encourage and inspire healing and health from a variety of things. And I'm not so sure about snoring, particularly like what's the body doing? But when you talked about someone with with Texas Chainsaw Massacre energy, which I understand that energy, because I also have a large family with a lot of people, and I've been scared, literally scared awake, like, oh, what's happening? To then realize what was going on, because the first time I was, sharing that close of quarters with a certain relative. Point being this though, it all just makes me wonder, is that just because that's true, is that the finite, or is that the end of the story? And then in time, I even hear about how people, how those things kind of change over time too. Like someone's, whether it's snoring or sleep challenges or anxiety, etc. Things just have their time for a moment and then they change. So it made me think about, again, that like the pranayama practice of good health and breathing, and who knows, maybe some of those things, and that might contribute, and also not just contribute to the idea of like, hey, well, let's just go our separate ways, I can't hang with that. Might also contribute even to maybe our own abilities to just like drown out that noise, like kind of like and I say that because the way I got back to sleep once I was like scared for my life, uh, and it wasn't that the fears remained, right? It was just the sound was so unfamiliar and it was intense. Real talk. So, but what I did was I got myself on the rhythm of the sound, with my breathing. Real talk, with my breathing, I aligned my inhalation and exhalation with the rhythm of the sound of, I would say, what was snoring, but it sounded so intense. Snoring is questionable if that's what it was, but I was on that same rhythm, and man, real quick, man, I just kind of got into the breathing, and I was really focused on just what my lungs and diaphragm was doing, and next thing you know, I was
Were
out
you
like a light.
aligning your chakras?
I can't speak so candidly about chakra attunement or alignment here in this moment. However, there's something to be said for that as well. Essentially, aligning ourselves in some way that was different than before, right? And that's kind of like what this full circle was for me with these conversations is, are we just maybe just seeing life a little bit different, looking at it from a different point of view, and so be it, whatever it's going to be. It need not, test someone's faith in humanity. It can be simple things. So yeah, I think that's fun to encourage the simplicity of it and the creativity of it.
So how about we'll have another future episode on identity, and we'll talk about identity in terms of me walking into the kitchen while my co-host Jason is fixing coffee. And if I see him dancing, I'll know to just move to his beat and know that it correlates to someone he's been around snoring. Since I know you be dancing to the rhythm as they're snoring. It'll be like, that'll be a good way to tie it to identity, huh?
Yeah, you might see me doing it too. I don't know if that's too uncommon,
True that.
For me, one of the lasting thoughts I had about the episode, and I don't know if we touch upon this or not, but, and this doesn't even really need to be elaborated on much, but for me, I want to know how many people, because I feel like this is common in a lot of relationships, not specific to this topic, but just specific about any potential issue that one person may have, but then doesn't bring up. So I basically want to know how many people, for whatever the reason, whether it's something as simple as like they don't want to hear their partner snoring, or they have, insomnia and it's hard for them to sleep. And then when their partner's moving around, that's difficult, or just because they simply really like sleeping by themselves. How many people have a desire to maybe change up the sleeping pattern, but then don't bring it up with their partner out of fear of rocking the boat, and their partner and them assuming or thinking that their partner will view it as indicative of a relationship problem, as opposed to just something that can be communicated about and come to a mutual understanding on. So that's, I think, what I was thinking about, because I feel like in a lot of my relationships in my life, excuse me, let me take a step back. Not like relationships like with girlfriends, but I mean just in my relationships with anybody, my friends, significant others, family, etc. You hear often throughout the course of your life people saying, "Well, I don't want to bring X, Y, or Z up because they're trying to avoid conflict," and a lot of people don't like confrontation. One of my exes was like that as well. She said that her entire family didn't really like confrontation, so a lot of things got swept under the rug and they didn't speak about it. So I wonder if there was someone like her and many others out there in the world who don't necessarily like confrontation and are not really bringing up the fact that they might want something to change or have a conversation about something. So whatever they're feeling can be discussed and talked about, but it's not because they don't want to say anything. So that's just one other thing to maybe pontificate about as you listen to this episode.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Other than that,
real quick,
I'll go ahead, Jason.
Yeah. Final thought on that same note. Actually, you bring it up. I'm encouraged to say, when you talk about fear, right? The fear of saying something, and we've been talking about partnership a lot of different times and connections with people. And if we take just the idea of expanding conversations in a bigger circle, just expanding conversation and in themes of conversation, I think fear and silence are major themes in the lives of all of us as humans, and in the silence of which, is, I think, we're not giving our all to a situation when we remain silent. And it's very difficult to do because, like you said, Armand, like there's like the peace at any price kind of mentality. And in the way I grew up and in our traditional practice growing up And I say traditional as in being, Californian for many generations at that point, which is kind of the same vibe, kind of like you didn't say much. So to speak out and just say something. And there's a lot of ways to do it. It need not be something that's going to be fearful or that it's very scary to get ourselves to do. It might come to that, and my sense is that it always will. My sense is life is always going to bring us to a place to face our fears. So also, not only as individuals, but as community. So what I think what I just want to say, and it's kind of speaking to what we're talking about here, is with also the conversation, thinking outside the box, if you will, trying new things in relation to the conversation on race in America. Because my sense is that conversation on race in America is one that needs to remain at the forefront of our consciousness and constantly has to evolve. So for me, as an Anglo man in America in this day and age, I've learned about, white privilege and white fragility and my ancestral trauma. I learned about all that because I was willing to take counsel. I had teachers. I had people share directly with me. And I was also having an open mind when more seemingly coincidental experiences came my way. So I'm saying all that to say, when we are willing to change our perspective, we're willing to, what it means to me is we're willing to grow. And when we grow, the things that lead to fear or silence no longer will do such things, and we'll move through that. So I noticed with white fragility or white, privilege, white supremacy, white superiority, all these, if you will, inheritances, they all need to be addressed by the white community. And we need to learn about it. We got to have a dialogue about it. So any of my white brothers and sisters in the community, just speaking specifically about race in America, continue to expand your understanding of the conversation. Continue to expand, listening to our brothers and sisters of color, and knowing that it is the only way in which true health for us as human beings is possible. No community can succeed when another community is in desperation. So let's continue to learn. Let's continue to listen. And I'll leave it at that for today. As always, gentlemen, good to be with you guys in the circle, exploring ideas and talking about what's meaningful to us. So thank you, as always. Peace and blessings to everyone.
Well said, dog. And I don't have anything else to say. So, Tim, unless you had some final thoughts.
Yeah.
And I will say, I will say, Jason said a lot, and I'm not touching that during this episode because we will get into like a 3-hour conversation, and then it won't even be a reflection episode anymore. So just want to say, if you have something to say about that, let's table that for a different day.
For sure. Yep, same condolences. I'd like to thank my co-host for always being open and transparent with their experiences and thoughts as we do each episode. As we appreciate anyone who takes time in their day to exercise the same thing. As it relates to the current topics in this reflection episode, I'd like to ask our listeners if you guys have any experiences or thoughts surrounding sharing the same bed. Or any thoughts surrounding our reflection on our friend Yasi as it relates to her journey. Anything you can relate to, feel free to share it in the comments. We appreciate your participation in every manner as it relates to listening, commenting, feedback, you name it. Thanks for being a part of this journey with us. Anything else? Continue being safe, be in good health, go out there and vote, and we'll be looking forward to having you guys in every episode to come.
No doubt. Appreciate it, Tim. Thank you guys once again for tuning in. And I'll make sure to put links in the description to the videos that Tim was referencing earlier in the episode in regard to the couple sleeping in the same bed. And other than that, we're through here for today. So until next time, peace out.
Deuces.